Hey guys, what's up? It's Shane here for Fugatech 3D Printing and welcome back for another video. And today we're going to be reviewing Proto Paradigm's PLA Filament. Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're reviewing Proto Paradigm's PLA Filament. So this one is their ProSpec PLA. I also have some of their normal PLA and we have some of their $5 rolls, which is what these guys are known for. And if anybody talks about them, you're talking about the $5 rolls. These are 200 gram rolls instead of the normal 1 kilogram roll, which is fantastic if you just need a little bit or you want to try out a color to get a decent print, because 10 meters gets you nothing really. So we're going to talk more about this one in a little bit. Let's take a look at their ProSpec PLA. So here's the bag. It's not tight vacuum sealed. This is how it comes. I mean, there's no special like box, kind of like Inland has, and Hatchbox comes in a box. This comes like this. So, it's not tight. There is a silica pack, down here. So there's one in there. Let's open it up. For that, we need our knife. All right, so here it is. And that's interesting. The end of the roll isn't anywhere. Where's that here? Thought I just saw it. Oh, here it is. So here's the end of the roll. Don't know if that's going to be tangled at all, so we're going to have to look at that when we go to print with this. So there's that. So this is the only color that I got in their ProSpec PLA. So this is their brown. I also have like their gunmetal gray. It's a real dark gray. And in the normal PLA, I have their white and I have just a light gray, which is actually here. I was just printing something with it for this review, and so far it's pretty good. Standard roll, good. It doesn't seem to be one of those joined rolls that some people have been talking about. It's one solid piece. So let's take a look at the specs. So their ProSpec PLA, they're saying print temp at 200 to 230 degrees Celsius, anneal temp 80 to 130 degrees Celsius, heated bed none. I always print PLA on a heated bed, so that's not going to change. And the technical color for this is moose brown, 1.75 millimeter, 1 kilogram, make and be happy. So this is their moose brown. Again, so we have their gray, we have the light gray, the dark gray, and white. So we're gonna get some prints of all those things, a couple different things, and let's go ahead and watch some time lapses. time lapses weren't too bad. You know, again, I'm still working on some of my angles and see how things turn out. All right, so let's talk about their $5 filament rolls. So these are 200-gram rolls, and they're not completely free-flowing. I mean, like, they're not just bundled up. They have a pretty ingenious little 3D printed spool holder on them, which, I mean, actually works pretty well. I'm not gonna open this bag up because I don't want to waste another bag. I have tons of it, so we're gonna look at another roll that I already have opened up. And here's the roll. So this is their green, and this is their 3D printed spool holder. It's pretty great, so it prints flat, and I guess when it's still warm, they twist it, you know, 90 degrees, and then they, you know, fill the spool. And there's a little notch in one of them, which actually this piece had come out. But there's a little notch here where the end of the roll goes, and then they spooled on there. It's spooled great. I mean, it's all in a nice line in there. Everything lines up the way it should. That's great. And on the ends here, there's these eyelets. What you're supposed to do is you're supposed to cut a piece of filament off, wrap it in here, and then kind of just put the ends together. I've used kind of like loose painter's tape to do that. But that was working out okay, and I was like, there has to be a better solution out there. Someone has to have thought something up, and they did. Here's the solution. So this is a normal spool, but this is specifically, sorry, it squeaks a little bit. Not the greatest print for me, but it works. So this was made specifically for these $5 filament rolls because the rolls line up perfectly inside there, so that when you clamp this down, it actually holds the center, the center O from their filament spool is caught in this one, and there's no, that doesn't jiggle. That's the filament jiggling a little bit, and that's it, and it holds it great. This spool holder has been great for me. I've only used it 2 times now. Before, again, I was using with how they recommend it. You wrap a piece of filament in there, it works. But this is better if you have other filament. But if you don't have any other filament yet, there's one other option you could do. So this is another roller filament. Again, I started out with this because I didn't want to invest big money into one color of filament. I was like, you know what, $5 for filament, this would be great to get some prints, kind of learn my 3D printing, and they have been great. So these right here are their $5 filament stabilizers, which they have on Thingiverse, and I'll put the link in there. I'll also put a link for this spool holder in the description. And these are just so instead of having 1 point, it actually has 2, so it kind of stays even as it rolls, and it doesn't have the tendency to fly back and forth on there, which it does because if it's pulling from this side, it's pulling down, this side's pulling down this way. Well, here it stays nice and level. And it is a smaller diameter, so depending on your spool holder, these may or may not work. You always could probably redesign these to make it a little bit bigger if you needed to, or smaller if you had to, or if you wanted to make it sturdier. But I mean, it's, you know, I think 4 or 5 widths of a 0.4 millimeter nozzle. So they print, I think in 5 minutes. I have 2 of these, or not even, maybe it's 10 minutes, I don't know. But it's really, really fast. You just print these out real quick and you're good to go. And it does add a lot of stability to these. So this is option 1 for you. This is option 2 for you. You know, take your pick. Now let's just talk about the print quality of this filament is outstanding. I mean, I've used it for many projects and all have come out just great. It prints like a dream. Now this isn't the cheapest filament. I think these full rolls were around $22 to $25. I don't remember, I ordered them a while ago. I'm just now getting ready to do the video again. These are just $5 and there's a little bit of shipping on it. So the more you shove in a box, the better it is. They do have packs as well. That's a little bit cheaper to buy the pack, but they're all this bundled colors. And if you want those bundled of colors, knock yourself out, but I wanted other colors that I just wanted to pick. I think there's an autumn, I think there's one for each season. I think that's this company. Autumn, a spring, a winter set. So it's just the tones for that season, like you would do clothes. It's, you know, the filament is toned to that. So the spring is a lot of the pastel-y colors, the fall is the darker colors, you know, like a burgundy, and the browns and the grays are all in there. So, but this print's great if you're looking for starter filament, you're just starting out, you know, I really recommend, don't invest in a big spool. Don't do it, because you don't know how it's going to turn out. And those little sample packs you get are like 10 meters, and that gets you can't print anything with that. I mean, you could print, you know, you can't even print one of my coins, you know, at 200%. You could do it 100%, but it doesn't tell you much. You gotta be able to print something a little bit bigger. So this will do it for you. And like I said, it prints easy. 205, 210 I've played with sometimes, but 205 is pretty much the sweet spot. 60 degrees on my bed, no tape, no glue, none of that BS with that. Again, you guys know I don't print anything on my glass. It's straight on glass. I don't put anything on it. And this adheres well. I've printed a ton of stuff with this, and I highly recommend the $5 rolls, because again, you cannot beat the price for trying out a filament, or if you just need a little bit of one color, you know, an oddball color, and you're like, oh, I really don't want a red. I really don't need a whole spool of yellow. You know, pick one of these up. This will get you through quite a bit of printing. For 200 grams, it goes a long way. So this first model, I had hinted to it in several of the groups. I don't think I put it on my page, but in several of the 3D printing groups, I had hinted to this. A lot of people were pretty excited to see it. So here it is. It's the Imperial Shuttle from Star Wars. So I saw that Joel had printed this a while back on his G-Max 1.5 XT Plus. And now that I have a large format printer, which is the Fugatech FT5, I can print one too. And this is it. So this took, I'm gonna say about 40 hours, quite a while. And it came out excellent. I mean, there are some of the retraction issues that I've been having. Some guys commented on other videos. I still haven't had time to sit down and kind of deal with that. I plan on doing that in the upcoming holidays. And you can kind of see it here on the side. Let's see if I can zoom in there. So you can see here is kind of some of the issue I was dealing with here, is when a new layer starts, it pushes out a little too much. Now this scrapes right off, and you can barely even see it was there, but that's my printer, that's my print settings, it's not the filament. This filament came out great. See some of the detail here. You know, I haven't pulled this report off yet, we're gonna do that here in a minute, but it came out great. Bottom layer, great. Details, great. So overall, it did pretty well. Okay, so let's see how it is to get the support off of this. That was easy. So this back is pretty rough, I have to say. I mean, that's kind of what happens when you print stuff on support. I'm sure we can, you know, smooth this out, take a knife to it, maybe melt it down. I don't have a finishing tool. If anybody has one, wants to send me one, let me know, but otherwise I'll probably pick one up here eventually. Let's see how it is to take the rest of the support off. Pretty tough here, I say. It's also a really big piece of support on this part here in the back. It's several inches long. Alright, so I'm just going to fast forward through this and show you what it is afterwards. So here it is all cleaned up, and the wings work just like they should. I have to be careful because these turrets here, I busted off trying to get the support off, and yeah, that was not too fantastic, but you know, hey, you live and you learn. But they're setting right now with some glue. They'll be set here soon. So as I said, you know, you had kind of the zitting here with the print, and that, again, that's my settings that I'm still working on to figure out. But other than that, I mean, the detail, this stuff printed really well. I mean, it's super smooth, and I like it a lot. I mean, the bottom layer. Let's look at this bottom layer here. Let me get close. So here's the bottom layer. Now that is how a bottom layer is supposed to look. I mean, you can't see blemishes anywhere. You can see the wings come up. You know, they do go forward to back. There's actually quite a lot of play in the wings. I was expecting to be a little more of a catch, but you can kind of see here on the side a little bit better. We'll go this way. You can see here the play in the wings a bit, but that's okay. But I mean, that bottom layer, just take a look at some more details here. I mean, it prints great. This back here though, you know, this is what printed on top of the supports, and that's not too great. I'm assuming that's going to be the way I'm printing it, or the way that it does print. I'll have to go back and look at Joel's video and see how his did, but I don't remember his having this type of problem on that G-Max, so it probably is me. So that's another place we had a little bit of problem was here on the back of the cockpit. A little bit of stringing here on the back. It didn't put any support there, but it did put support under here to hold up the front, and you know, a little bit of defects there. But other than that, I mean, looking at this thing straight on, it's not too bad. So I'm kind of in a big Star Wars kick for this filament because I had the 2 shades of gray, which is great. So I printed a real big Imperial Shuttle. So obviously we have to print a Millennium Falcon, and it you know, came out not too bad. Except it failed. So, and I ran out of filament. So clearly I cannot estimate 268 meters because a roll is almost 300, or right around 300. And that used, the Imperial Shuttle used at least half the roll. So we made it through about 55%, 52% of the Millennium Falcon. And then I had to switch to their gray, light gray PLA. And then we had a issue where my thermistor popped out of my hot end, and I did not have thermal runaway enabled yet in the firmware that I was testing out on the FT5, and it burned along the edge here, and then eventually it went up to 315 degrees Celsius and melted the PTFE lining inside the throat and stopped extruding because it totally clogged it up. I'm going to print this again. I'm going to do it 100%. This is a 200% model. I'm going to do it at 100% next time, and you know, which I should have done in the first place, but you know, I figured, you know, if I'm going to go big or go home. And I'm definitely going to do this with some supports. So you can't do this with, this is supposed to be a no support model. It says it on the Thingiverse, people have done it, but I think they've all done it at 100%. So I would need to generate supports for this at the 200% size, because you can see there is stringing at the bottom. I definitely need to do supports because you can see on the bottom of some of these parts, you can see the stringing under here. There's the stringing here at the bottom, under here, a little bit down in here, which was kind of to be expected, but some of the details came out great, and there is a ton of sagging. You can see here how there's a ton of sagging between these points, and it has to be a setting that I can try and fix. But again, I'm gonna try and print this at 100% and see how it comes out, and just do, I'll try without support, they say so. And this one I'll do support only from the build plate. Otherwise it'll get in support here in the middle and you'll never get that out. But otherwise, you know, it came out pretty good. I'm not sure if I should blame the size or the filament for all the stringing of it not, you know, quite laying and adhering properly. But we'll give it another try, another date. So there's that one. So I print quite a lot of useful items. I'm not the guy that prints things just for random. I mean, yeah, I have the giant Pikachu and the Imperial Shuttle, and I want to get a Millennium Falcon. There's certain things that I want to have. It's kind of like a decoration in my space, you know, to show things that I've been able to print. And so when it comes to doing things a little more practical, I have here some knuckles for my GoPro, and this is what I use for the vlogging currently, but I also think I'm going to use it as my running gun when I'm kind of playing with the kids. It's a much better hold. And these came out perfectly smooth. There's a little bit of blobbing and zitting on the insides, which I took a file and took those out real quick. That was more my settings. This was a little earlier when I had first bought it, and my first layer was a little narrow. I needed it widened a little bit, and I didn't quite have retraction down perfectly for this one. But you can also see here at the bottom, this was laying down like so. But down here you can see this had to be on top of support, and it did a pretty poor job of making that bottom layer nice and flat. But on the flip side, where the nut goes, came out perfectly. So with a lot of these GoPros, the GoPro mounts, you just put a nut there and you screw it through, you put the screw through, and it pulls the nut into the space, and it holds it in there rock solid. So that was really nice to see. But again, this bottom here that was on top of the support came out pretty poorly. I've been using this filament almost since the beginning of my time 3D printing, and I had bought the $5 rolls simply because they were cheap and it was a small amount of filament, so I didn't have to invest $20, $30 into a kilogram roll of a filament that printed like crap. So $5 for 200 gram roll seemed like a logical decision. I did print out a lot of smaller things when I only had my G-Tech, and this little Rattle is one of them. So printed this for my son when he was just about 10 months old, and he loves it. He runs around with it and bashes it off things, and it holds up rather well. It's 2 perimeters with, I believe, 20% infill, and same thing, the original handle though broke on me with I had tried 10% infill on that, but that did not work out. I went up to 30%, and this one is much more durable. And as you can hear, it's a pretty fun model. You have to actually print P's and then drop them in there as this is printing, because obviously this is hollow, in order to make it a rattle. And it came out rather well. My Z-banding was a little bit on the G-Tech, and this is their moose brown and their dark gray or stone gray. But again, this is their $5 roll, so if you want to look to try out a filament, samples usually aren't very good because you're only getting anywhere between 10 and 40 meters. Well, when you're getting 200 grams, into a kilogram, 300, you do the math, you're getting a decent amount of filament. You can print quite a bit with 200 grams of filament, and this is just one of those nice little things that I printed. Makes a great gift, and my son loves it. So since I have the FT5, I can print stuff pretty huge, and I made this little rattle. So if I have one for my son, you gotta have one for daddy. This is printed at 200%, and I have yet to glue it together, but I'm gonna do that in a minute. But here we are with a 200% model of the Rattle. And it's pretty great. I really like it. I actually should have went a little bit bigger because my hand doesn't quite fit. I kind of have large hands, so it would fit if I only had it like just a sword, but when you put on the pommel, makes it a little tight. I should have did 250 or maybe 300%. 250 definitely would have been big enough. So this came out great. I mean, the filament prints very well. It is a little bit of a softer filament, I will say. I don't know if that really makes sense, but it honestly feels a little softer. It's a little smoother than some of the other ones I have. Not like the real shiny time, but it just feels smoother when it's on the roll. And I did have this print fail. I'm not sure if it was something because of my machine or it just hit a soft spot or something, and it just gouged into it and caused a failure. Don't know why, but I redid the print. Luckily I only made it up to here. Redid the print and it came out just great. And again, when you print this, you get up so far, after you print the piece first, then after you get up so far into the blade, you take a pair of needle nose pliers and you just drop the piece in there, and that way they are encased in here and you don't have to worry about it. So there is a 200% model of the Rattle. And I will post this in the description below in case you guys want to print this, you can. So I also have some of their white PLA, and I decided to print a companion cube. And this is printed on my G-Tech. It came out very well, very strong. Bottom layer is good, top layer is good. This filament is very easy to print with. I extrude a little higher than what I notice most people do. I like to get nice fat layers, especially in the bottom layers. I print that much fatter, and this filament adheres great to the glass plate, so you don't really ever have to worry about it popping off. I'll normally watch a print for the first layer to ensure that went down well, and then I walk away. So this companion cube took about 4.5 hours to complete. With I believe I bumped up to, I printed it once at 10% infill, and I didn't like the way it came out, so I adjusted some settings. Printed this one at the 15% infill, and it came out much, much better. And I printed one more model with the Moose Brown PLA, and that is for my wife, and it is Luna's wand. This one will definitely not be going to her because this model is horrendous. It is not the filament's fault, it is not my printer's fault, it is the way the model is. And this model was not fantastic. The filament did how it was supposed to do. A little rough on here, and I think it's just because of the way, I mean, it's smaller, it's tapered, so smaller here, smaller to bigger, even more. And just the way it had to lay down the layers is not smooth at all. And I'm gonna blame that purely on the model and not on the filament. Okay guys, so that's my review of the Proto Paradigm ProSpec PLA. I have several colors of it. I have a lot more of their $5 spools and some of their larger spools. It's an excellent filament. I highly recommend it to everyone, especially if you're getting new into 3D printing, or if you only need just a little bit, if you just need a little bit of white, a little bit of yellow, purple, whatever it is you need, you can get it there. They have a pretty good selection, about 16 colors, maybe 20 colors total. And it's good stuff. It's great for the price. You can print with it on any machine, so I highly recommend it. That being said, I use my own money to buy these rolls, from the $5 rolls to their full rolls. So, Proto Paradigm, you guys should send me some more. I'd love to print with some more and do more reviews on your other colors maybe, or whatever it is, do some large prints. And it's great stuff, so I'd love to hear from you. Hope you guys like this review. Please like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below if you want to add something to it. If you have any questions about the filament, more than happy to help out. So until next time, happy printing.